I'm super excited. If you listen to the previous episode, I talked with my guest about his new book that just came out. It was one of my favorites I read this year. I think the book I read the fastest this year. Please welcome Jumata Emill. Thank you so much for being here again.
Thanks for having me again.
All right, so let's jump into it. Tell me,
Yes,
what is your relationship to reading, and do you like to read?
always. I've always loved books. Reading was an escape for me.
Okay.
I was raised reading like Nancy Drew, The Hardy
Oh my
Boys, Sweet
gosh.
Valley High. I love those books. It was just magical. But I always read those books and was like, well, I wish there were like black kids in these stories,
Mm,
And so I always just felt like one day I would want to write those stories for like teenage me, like
hmm
getting to solve mysteries or maybe living in a town with an identical twin that was like horrible person. But no, yeah, I've always loved reading. Reading was something that I've always that was a one constant in my life. I just constantly always read and wanted to just experience, like other characters, life stories, plot, twists. I've always loved it. It's just something
Yeah.
that's just I've done for pleasure all of my life, whether it's a magazine or whether it's a book,
Mm.
or whether it's research for work. It's just I'm always reading.
And what is your preferred method of reading? Audiobook, paperback, Kindle? What is it?
I want the hard copy in my hand.
Okay. Okay.
I'll read some Kindle now when I'm having to read for blurbs and stuff for other
Mm.
because usually they'll just send you the digital archive. So I have to read it on my
Yeah.
Kindle. But I want to smell it. I want to lay on it
Yep.
with my hand. That I want it on my nightstand. I want the physical
Yep.
book.
I get it. So then what are some of your all-time favorite books?
I hate this question. You know why? Because I don't have
Got to
favorites.
ask it. Okay.
I don't have. I'm that person that I don't really have favorites. I will. This is how I always answer this question. There are certain authors that have impacted me. There are a couple of
Mm.
other authors I always mention that have impacted me in a very real way, and I'm going to tell you who they are. The first one is Lynn Harris. He was the first contemporary Black queer gay man author. He wrote Invisible Life. They wrote a book that I was like, oh my God, there's a space for me if I want to write books. The next person is Christopher Rice, Anna Rice's son. He used to write, when he first came on the scene, he used to write noir thrillers, like New Adult, before New Adult was a thing. They were fantastic books. And he used to combine gay and straight characters, but gays always centered the story. And it was the first time I ever
Okay.
saw contemporary gay characters in mysteries and thrillers. And I was like, these type of books I want to write as well, but with Black characters. The next person was Anne Rice. I I was obsessed with her. I was reading her when I probably shouldn't have been reading her as a kid, but I just loved how lush and how much dedication she wrote about the South, about New Orleans in particular. And I was like, I want to write books about the
Mm.
South. And then,
hmm
of course, the final books I already mentioned, which were the Nancy Drew and Hardy Boy books. I used to love teen sleuths. I've always loved, those kind of characters and have teens who are smart enough to like solve mysteries. And for some reason about that, I just always loved that. I think that was my
hmm
fantasy to me is that kids
Yeah,
can do this. So yeah, those are the three.
I love that. Oh, I have to look. I don't think I've read maybe any of them. I also haven't read like the classic Nancy Drew and stuff, but I love a thriller, so I'm here for it.
I think so these are two. So I think you would love Christopher Rice's early books.
That's what sounds
Um,
like.
so
Okay.
I'm gonna give you two books you might like. It's called A Density of Souls was his debut novel. It was set in New Orleans. And then he had a book called The Snow Garden, which was his second book. Those were my two all-time favorites. He wrote other
Okay.
mysteries. He wrote other thrillers after those,
Yeah.
but those are my two. I think you will love them. I think you will love,
Okay.
love, love, love
That's
them.
so. What's a book that you would want to read again for the very first time?
None. I can tell this. I do. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. You know what? I'm gonna go back to my original. I'm gonna say none. Let me say because I never read books over again. Once I
Oh.
I want to read books. I don't care how much I love a book. I'm never gonna read it over again. But here's the other thing. I'm not a fast reader. I take my time to read books because I want to prolong it as much as possible, like the whole experience. So I will take probably a month to read a book. I think the quickest I ever read a book was 2 weeks. It was like Catching Fire in the Hunger Games series. They were
Okay.
just like, but even if I'm enjoying a book. I still take my time. I want to savor it as long as I can. To answer your question, though, I will say if there was a book that I wish I could experience the first time, I would say it's probably Invisible Life by Lynn Harris because I just
Okay.
remember again how that book made me feel so seen.
Hmm.
And I was just like, oh God, this is like life changing. And I would never get that feeling back again, from any book again.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. That's so funny though, because I'm out here like, oh, I took 24 hours to read your book because I couldn't put it down. So I'm surprised as a thriller reader that you can't be like, oh my God, I have to know, like I have to finish this.
No, I would drag it out as long as I can.
The point where I'm going to give you book recommendations. And
Okay.
I'm kind of going to rapid fire them to you. So the first one is What We Did to Survive by Megan Lally, and it comes out in
I
March.
want to read this. I have seen her books all the time. They always get like tagged with mine or like, for
So good. Okay.
okay.
That one. The Grand Paloma Resort by Clyvis Natera. The little sister is babysitting for this white family that's at the resort, and something happens to the little daughter. And it
Oh, okay.
goes into this whole journey about the Dominican Republic,
Ah,
specifically class and race, and
oh,
within this resort in the city. It's so good.
you got
I
my
loved it.
attention. Okay.
One is The Really Dead Wives of New Jersey by Astrid Dahl, which, as somebody who likes reality TV, I
I'm
feel
about to
like
say
you
this
would.
sounds like Real Housewives.
This is basically it's. I knew you liked reality TV, so I was like, he'd like this, but it's a thriller, and there's a murder while they're filming this like Real
Oh, I
Housewives
would
show.
love this. Oh, yes. Okay, yes, 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 yes.
Okay, okay. The next one is a horror novel, and it's called Bat Eater and Other Names by Cora Zeng.
Okay,
For Cora Zeng by Kylie Lee Baker. I read it last
okay,
year. So this book basically follows Cora Zeng, who's a Chinese American living during the pandemic, during
okay.
COVID. And she's in New York City, and her sister gets pushed in front of a train. And as she's pushed in front of the train, the person who pushes her says "bat eater" as this like racial slur to her. And so she's dealing with the death of her sister and the haunting of that, while also being a crime scene cleaner during the time in which a bunch of Asian Americans are being murdered and there's a
Oh,
serial
this is
killer out
interesting.
there.
Okay,
And
okay.
so you're dealing with her grappling of grief, also being haunted by the ghost of someone who she thinks maybe is her sister, and the racial tension that exists during the pandemic for Asian Americans. It was
Oh,
very
this is
good.
heavy. This is heavy.
It was
Okay, yeah,
so good. It
okay,
was so
okay,
good. So then my last three questions for you are, what is a book on your list you want to read next? What is the
okay,
last really good book you read? And what are you
okay.
currently reading?
Perfect. I can answer all these. So the book that I want to read next is this book called "There's Only One Sin in Hollywood" by this author
Oh,
named Rasheed Newson. I don't really know much about this author, but I just came across this book. I think I saw it somewhere on NetGalley or somehow it got linked to my book, I Don't Wish You Well. And
oh,
it goes kind of into Hollywood, like, oh, it's like a historical novel set in 1950s, and it goes into like old Hollywood and young black stars and like ones who were gay and couldn't come out, and there's a murder mystery involved. And I'm just like, I don't know a lot about it, but I'm super interested in it.
oh, so am I.
So yeah, so I definitely want to read that. It looks like it would be a really, really good book. And so I'm excited about that one. I think I have two that I read currently that I love that I want to be able to tell you about that I like. The first one was Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson.
So good.
She's one of my faves, and I loved what she did in this novel. I thought it was so. I love that she went. I don't want to do spoiler. I love that she went all the way there and she stayed and she stuck to what she was gonna
I
do.
was very similar
I
to the
was
way I felt
devastated.
at the end of your
Yes,
book. I was like,
I
oh,
was
so we're going to
devastated.
do this. We're
We're
going to
gonna do
choose
it.
this.
Yes, yes. And it was so freaking good. It was a great ride.
Mhm.
And the other one that I recently read was the Chiffon Trenches, the Andre Leon Talley memoir that I read recently. And he
Oh,
was and I just loved it because it was all about his full experience and him
yeah.
growing up. And I love fashion, so it was all about I kind of him
Hmm.
being a black queer guy. I kind of loved reading that. It kind of stayed with me. So those are my two recent faves. And then the thing that I am currently reading is I'm reading Ashley Elston's The Anatomy of an Alibi. Uh,
Anyway, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited for this episode to come out and for your book to come out. Obviously, it's out by the time this airs, but in the interim, I think everybody's going to love it. And if they haven't gotten their hands on any of your three books, they should.